Good morning, Grace.
Hi, sir. Good morning. I will show you something. Come here. I have my nephews and niece at my background. They wanted to be in the meeting.
Oh, good. That's funny. You're like, come here. I'm like, well, Grace, I don't think I can get there very quickly.
Yeah, but they leave already. They are shy. Okay, I'll start now.
Okay.
Yeah. Since 2019, we've been building mindset and purpose for real estate agents, entrepreneurs, leaders, people becoming more than they were yesterday. Monday through Friday, we rise. We win the morning, we win the mind. Faith over fear, pressure into purpose, confidence built through the work. Something good is gonna happen to me. Something good is gonna happen to me. I don't need all the answers, I just need belief. Becoming who I'm called to be, making impact bigger than me. God first, doubt steps back. When it gets heavy, we figure it out. You're not here by accident, you're part of the story. Stepping strong, stepping faith. Let's get your mindset right.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning to you all. Happy Figured Out Friday. Put TGIF in the chat. Put TGIF in the chat over here because it is a wonderful, wonderful Friday that we got. We're actually supposed to have like a summer weekend, like in the 90s this weekend for like the next couple days. The funny thing is we all cheer, we get excited. Like in the 90s, this is great. You come in like July, we'll be like, oh my God, it's in the 90s again. Can we just please have it? Come, why is it so hot? It's just funny how we get so excited for certain things. Our perspective, right, David? Our perspective. Look at Sherry. Sherry looks like she's about to do some business, some serious business over there. Patrice is in the car already, moving and shaking. Bethany's in the car. Who else is in the car this morning that we have going on? Dawn. Good morning to you, Dawn. Dawn and I. Dawn's getting ready to do a little pickleball up in New York. We were going through our event that we have. Don't forget, we got the study hall, the Zoom. It is a national study hall, and we got Drew Thompson. He's coming back talk about AI. Our Golden Girls, our Golden Rebecca is going to be there. We have Brittany Hall's going to be there. Our boy Chad Free, he tries to run for me, but I brought him back. So Chad Free's going to be there. Um, Brian Gelke, remember him with the eyebrows and the facial recognition? So he's going to be there too. So we got a star packed lineup. Each going to speak 20 minutes, so you're not going to want to miss anything. I always think adults like transitions too, just like kids. We got to give you transitions. So we're excited about that. So good morning, everybody. Good morning to you all. My name is Coach Brock Zivan, life coach, business coach, real estate coach, and an agent and a DAD. Just very excited to be here on this Friday, this Figure It Out Friday edition that we have next week. We got Michelle with our authors edition, and Jim holds up our last Friday of the month. And so I'm thankful to be able to lead the beginning parts of the month and still being able to interview and have conversations with amazing people on Figure It Out Friday. And this person is no stranger to us. He's been with us. I've been able to meet Chet back in, I think David is not on mute. There he goes. Now he's on mute. Um, Met him in Nashville, and him and his company that he will talk about, they're in the lending world. And they were one of our main sponsors for our Success Summit. And I got to really get to know Chet a lot more. And he came down to Atlanta. We've had some lunches together, coffees together. And I got to understand how this man operates, how he thinks. And and this is a compliment to you, Chet. This is a compliment. Like, people in this, like, how do I say it, and I'm just point blank, like, at his age don't usually talk about artificial intelligence too much. Like, that's like, I bring up artificial intelligence to my parents, and my dad's just like, "Rah, I hate it, I can't believe," like, it's just, but it's something you need to embrace. And Chet's done an amazing job embracing artificial intelligence, all, and he's going to share with you his story about his life, as well as sharing with you how he used artificial intelligence to do it. And then you're not going to want to miss the very end, because he breaks it up into four parts, which I found, like, I got to hear it all. And I was like, wow. And something he's going to share with you at the end, you all historically know, because it was all across the news around really the world, especially here in the United States, that his family was a part of. And it's just here in Charlotte, it really hit home too, with it. So you all know our main man, Mr. Chet. So without further ado, put some fives in the chat, put some love in the chat for our main man, Mr. Chet. Good morning, brother. How are
Morning.
you?
I'm good. Can everybody hear me?
We got you loud and clear, man. Loud
That's good.
and clear. Where's
All
my
right.
remote?
So
How are you, man?
I'm doing
Tell me a
great.
little bit about you. Give everybody who doesn't know you a little 30-second overview of who you are as a man, as a father, as a husband, as a worker. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you're kind of get that from going to get that from the whole story, but I've been here in Charlotte for, I don't know, maybe 30 years. I feel like I was always here. And I've got three daughters, eight grandkids. They're my life. I have been in the mortgage business since 2006 after doing a long stint in technology, which is why I have this passion for AI. And that's kind of it.
I love it, man. I know you got a
Yeah,
whole team. You're one of those grandpas that are at every game, and
that's
that is
right.
a big part of your life, which I
Yeah.
admire and respect. Like, that's something that I want to do when I get older, to see my kids have kids. God bless me right now, and just thinking
Hmm.
that thought. So talk to us a little bit about let's get into your story. Share with us a little bit about what you got going on in this amazing sequence of what you learned and using some artificial intelligence. Walk us through this journey.
So for years, I've always thought about all the things that happened in my life, and I always figured that somehow they had a major effect on me. But I wasn't sure. They were kind of disconnected. I had no real way of knowing whether or not they meant anything beyond just isolated memories. And then I decided to try AI. And this has started years ago. And when I first started with AI, it was all about getting your information in there. So I've obviously entered in all my personal, my professional information, kind of my resume, and it ended up getting me into adding my personal stuff. And after a lot of back and forth, what came out of it was kind of a conversation I have with myself, a way to go back through those moments when things got tough and remind myself what these events might have taught me. And after sitting in on your morning talks, it occurred to me that maybe I'm not the only one who could use this kind of a conversation. So I'm going to share mine with you. It's not going to be a lot of interaction. It's going to be basically me just talking. And frankly, I've never shared this whole story with anyone, not even my wife. These are all, I mean, everybody knows about these individual events, but not how they all ended up tying together. So, first of all, when we think about these moments in our life, we think about them, the biggest events that happen come with fanfare and music and spotlights, kind of graduations, weddings, promotions, milestones that fit neatly into a photo album. But most of the moments that change your life forever, they don't look like that at all. They show up on ordinary days in a phone call, a meeting, a transfer, a decision someone else makes for you. They show up literally as a fork in the road. Now, I don't know if any of you remember a radio personality is really going to show my age, a guy by the name of Paul Harvey. For
Hmm.
decades, he told stories the old fashioned way, very slowly, carefully, and a little twist at the end. And that's what happened to me with this AI thing. He'd start with something that sounded simple, almost forgettable. And that's just when you thought you knew the point, he'd reveal the hidden detail, the decision, the moment that changed everything. And then he'd close with these words that made you see your own life differently. And now you know the rest of the story. Good day.
Hmm.
So today, that's kind of the way my story came out. And it's because every one of us is living our own rest of the story. And it's written over and over again at forks in the road. Sometimes you see the fork coming a mile away. Sometimes you don't recognize it until years later, looking back over your shoulder, saying, that was it. That was the moment that everything changed. Some forks you choose, you sign the paper, you say yes or no. Some forks are chosen for you. The company downsizes, the doctor calls, your father walks in and says, we're moving. And that's one of my early forks. I was 17 going on 18, living in Connecticut. I had friends. I was a drummer in a band. I had a future that I was sure of and a story in my head about how it was all going to go. And then my father walked in my room one day and said, my job's been transferred. We're moving to Hurt, Virginia.
Hmm.
I said, what? I, I didn't volunteer for this. I didn't raise my hand. I was told, and I hated it. I hated leaving my friends, my band, my girlfriend, my life that felt like it was mine. And if I'm honest, I was angry at my parents for making me make the move. In my mind, they weren't just changing my address, they were stealing my future. And then, literally 2 weeks after the move, it got worse. And I'm really going to age myself now. That band that I was in decided to take a little trip up to upstate New York to a place called Woodstock. And what a lot of people don't know about Woodstock is a lot of the bands that came out of that were really nothing more than a guitar player who had written a single song and managed to get some stage time. And when he got the stage time, he'd run through the crowd and start yelling, hey, I need a guitar player. I need a drummer. I need a bass player. And they'd practice for an hour and they'd get up on stage and they'd play that song. Well, one of my friends actually made it into one of those groups and he started recording and touring and living the dream that we kind of all thought we might have in all those garages and basements. And there I was in Virginia wondering, could that have been me? Was that supposed to be my road? Did I just watch my future drive away without me? And for a long time, that really bothered me. I carried it like a quiet regret, a private what if that I didn't talk about, but I did make myself a promise. I was getting out of Virginia as fast as I can. And for me, that meant one thing. I was going to have to go to college back in Connecticut. Kind of became my mission, my escape route, my road back home. Nothing was going to stop me until another fork came about. Turns out there was a popular band down in Virginia playing in clubs all over the place. And they had a great drummer. I remember him well. Um, but then one night I went to watch him and something was different. The drummer was different, and not just different, he was bad. You didn't have to be a musician to hear it. It was a whole different group. They were terrible. And a couple of weeks later, I heard they were having an audition for a new drummer. This was it. This was going to be my time. I showed up, I did the audition, I played my heart out, and it was obvious I was really the best guy, but I didn't get the job. About a month later, that same band ended up playing at my senior prom. I
Hmm.
stood there, I listened, and I watched a drummer on stage I knew I could outplay in my sleep, and it was brutal. In my mind, it should have been me up there. That was supposed to be my shot. And on the first break, the band members saw me and they walked over to me and they said, you know, Chet, we did want you. You were the guy, but we just couldn't see ourselves going through again what we had to go through to get this drummer up to speed. We just couldn't do that all over again. In other words, I was the best choice. They were just too tired to choose me. In that moment, rejection doesn't come close to explaining how I felt. Another door slammed, another sign that I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, missing a life that might have been mine. But here's what AI did, and then a little bit of the rest of the story. If I had gotten that gig, if I had joined that band, played in those clubs, became their drummer, I probably wouldn't have been in such a hurry to leave Virginia. I might have stayed. I might have never gone to college in Connecticut. I would have never met my wife. Wouldn't have had the 3 daughters and the 8 grandkids. So one no from a tired band turned out to be a yes to an entire future, a family, a life, a legacy that simply would not exist if that fork had gone the other way. When at 18, I thought my life had just been ruined, years later, I realized my life had just been redirected. Because that's how forks in the road work. In the moment, they feel like theft. Later, if you choose to lean towards the positive, they start to look a lot more like grace. Now, there's another danger, and that's the danger of doing nothing at those forks, of waiting for life to rescue you. Let me tell you a story that I'm sure you've probably heard before about the man who lived on a small town and began to rain heavily and the river began to rise. Sheriff drove through and said, "Sir, you need to evacuate. The water's coming." The man said, "No, I'll be fine. God's going to save me." The water kept rising, got to his porch. The neighbor came by in a rowboat and shouted, "Climb in, the water's getting higher." The man waved him off again, said, "No, I'm going to be fine. God's going to save me." Kept rising. He's now on the second floor. A rescue crew came by in a motorboat, said, "Sir, this is your last chance. Get in the boat." Shook his head, "No, I'll be fine. God's going to save me." Finally, he ended up on the roof, and a helicopter hovered overhead, dropped the ladder, and the crew yelled down, "Grab on. We're here to save you." He folded his arms again and said, "Listen, I'm going to be fine. God's going to save me." Well, the water kept rising, and the man drowned. When he got to heaven, he was confused and angry. He said, "God, I trusted you. I told everyone that you were going to save me. Why didn't you?" God looked back at him and said, "I sent you a car, 2 boats, and a helicopter. What were you waiting for?" So, well, we all kind of laugh about this, but it's really a mirror. Some of us are standing at that fork in the road waiting for a miracle while the boats are already around us. A move we didn't want that pulled us out of danger, a rejection that pushed us towards a better future, a no that cleared the way for a much better yes. The road you need is already under your feet. You just have to stop wishing for a different one and start walking this one with your eyes open, your head up, and your heart tilted towards the positive. Because here's the truth. You don't always choose the path, but you always choose how you walk it. You don't always control the change, but you always control the story you tell yourself about that change. Every fork in the road carries both a gift and a burden. The gift is possibility, the burden is uncertainty, and in between those two is you. When you lean towards the negative, you don't just see more problems, you create more of them. You collect evidence that life is against you. You replay what I lost so loudly that you never hear what I gained. But when you lean towards the positive, not blind optimism, but disciplined hope, you start asking different questions. Not why did this happen to me, but what can I do with this? Not what did I lose, but what can I learn? What if I had taken the other road? But what is still possible on this one? Over time, those questions change your life. Every fork in the road comes with that shadow question, what if? What if I had taken the other job? What if I had stayed? What if I had left sooner? What if I had said yes or no? For me is, what if I had stayed in Connecticut? What if I'd been that guy that made it in the group at Woodstock? What if I had made it, that band in Virginia had said yes? Those questions haunted me. And what AI did helped me years later, long after those bands had gone in the garages and the dreams of making it big, I got another piece of information. I found out that that friend that had made it, the one that did get into that rock band, the one who walked the road I thought I wanted so badly, he died of a heroin overdose. And in that quiet moment, it was as if life whispered to me, and oh, by the way, here's the rest of that story. Same stage, same spotlight, very different ending. And suddenly the move to Virginia, the missed auditions, the painful no's they all looked different. The road I thought had cheated me might have actually been the road that saved me. So now when I look back at those forks in the road, my what if sounds very different. Instead of what if I stayed, it's what if I'd never left. Instead of what if I'd gotten that gig, what if I'd never come home? And that's when you realize something very powerful. Life didn't give you that other path, life gave you this one. And you have more to be grateful for than you will ever fully see from where you're standing. And let me tell you about that last fork. It didn't happen when I was 18 or in a club. It happened on an ordinary workday here in Charlotte many, many years later. My wife and I were watching our first grandson. He was 1 year old. My daughter and my son-in-law were both working. And for some reason, I was working out of the house. I have no idea why, because I was working for Richard Toccato, if you remember him at the time. And that was an office job, but I was at home. Nothing about that morning looked very special. It was just life. And then the phone rang. It was my son-in-law. And in a flat, stunned voice, he said, Jen was in a plane crash. She's okay. I just spoke to her. I said, what? Like I hadn't heard him, but I had. He repeated it. Jen was in a plane crash. She's okay. I just spoke to her. I handed the phone to my wife. She was already in tears, as if she already knew something before the rest of us did. I walked upstairs, I turned on the TV, and that's when I realized this wasn't just any flight. It was the flight that would come to be known as the Miracle on the Hudson. For most people, this was a headline, a news story, a feel-good special on the evening broadcast. For me, it was my daughter, my grandson's mother, my son-in-law's wife, my little girl standing on the wing of an airplane in the middle of an icy cold river between life and death. In those few nanoseconds between there's been a crash and she's okay, every success I ever chased, every worry I carried, every plan I ever made, all shrank down to one simple prayer: God, please let my daughter live. That day became another fork in the road. On one side of that fork is the life we would have lived if that flight had been just another tragedy on the news. On the other side is the life we actually got: a second chance, a miracle we didn't earn, more birthdays, more holidays, another grandson whose name happens to be Hudson, more ordinary days with our family that suddenly didn't feel ordinary. And here's what changed for me at that fork. I stopped assuming I was owed tomorrow. I started treating time with my family like what it really is: a gift, not a guarantee. Because once you've heard those words, there's been a crash, and then watch your daughter walk away from the water, you don't see a single day the same way. In my office, right over there, you can't see it, there's a framed picture from the Charlotte Observer. You all know the one of the plane on the water with everybody standing on it. My daughter is on the left-hand side, the third one from the front, and every Palm Sunday, I replace the palm that is sitting behind it. It's my quiet reminder that life is fragile. Every day, every year we get together is a gift, not a guarantee. But there's another part of the story, one that my daughter tells better than I ever could. After the crash, people actually exited onto two different wings. If there was ever a literal example of a fork in the road, this was it. My daughter will tell you that on the side she went on, people were relatively calm. They worked together, helped one another, made room. She stepped out onto the wing and realized she'd forgotten her seat cushion as a flotation device. And the passenger next to her said, look, don't worry, we can share mine. Same crash, same cold river, but on the other side of that plane, the experience was very different. People were frantic, pushing, looking out for only themselves. And most of the headlines you saw came from that side. And here's what's really fascinating, even today, because they all still get together. My daughter will tell you that many of the people who got off on the wrong side, they still carry it. They hold on to the anger, the fear, the negative feelings about that flight. And if they're not careful about everything else, same crash, same miracle, two very different stories that people chose to live in. My daughter didn't choose that second story. In fact, just recently, she was named the 13th most powerful woman in banking. They wrote up an article on her in the American Banker magazine, and they took a paragraph from a memo she sent to her team during the COVID pandemic. And I'm going to read that to you because it really resonated with me in this whole story. What she said in that memo was, we will all experience it differently. We will all remember it differently, but the decisions we make and where we go from here has yet to be determined. Who do we want to be, the optimists or the pessimists? Who we are innately will dictate our first intuitions, but at the end of the day, we have a choice, and I, for one, continue to choose optimism. And that's a woman who once stood on the wing of an airplane in the Hudson River, who watched people choose panic on one side, cooperation on the other, and decided that for the rest of her life, she would stand on the side of optimism. Somewhere here right now, someone is probably standing at a fork in the road. Maybe you didn't sleep last night because of it. Maybe your chest tightens every time you think about it. Maybe you've been telling yourself, when this is over, I'll be happy again. But this fork is not a problem to survive. It's a turning point to steward. The question is not which road will you end up on. The question is, who will I choose to be on that road? You may not get to choose the timing, the circumstances. You may not even get to choose which path you're forced onto, but you do get to choose. Will you become smaller or stronger, harder or wiser? Will you collect reasons to quit or reasons to grow? Life is generous with forks on the road. It will give you more than you asked for, more changes, more surprises, more endings, beginnings. You can't control that, but you can control this. You can decide today that for wherever the road bends next for you, you'll walk it with your eyes open, your head up, and your heart set as best you can on the positive. You can decide that your story will not be the story of what happened to you, but the story of what you did with what happened. And if you make that decision quietly, firmly, again and again, one day, years from now, someone's going to sit across from you and say, I don't know how you made it through all of that. And you're going to smile and think of each fork in the road, each unwanted move, each missed opportunity, each unplanned detour, each wing of a plane in an icy river, and you'll realize you didn't just make it through, you were made by it. And now you know the rest of the story. Brock?
Woo! Damn. Wow. I told you all. I told you. Put it in the chat. So good. I don't even think a five deserves it. Put a so good in the chat all. If that really resonated with you in some capacity, in some way of that was a good story, brother. That was like he told me too. I was just like I'm like I was getting teary-eyed too when you started talking about your daughter, just because like I started thinking about my daughter and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't imagine what that must have felt like. And so, whew, man, guys, those are the type of things that when you look back, Chet, like after you did this, Chet, what would be
Mm-hmm.
your to kind of like what would be your greatest takeaway after you did this? You prepared. I mean, it was so eloquently articulated in your story and how you presented it. Like after as you're reading this artificial intelligence, as you're going through these forks inside of your head, like what was your greatest takeaway? What did you walk away with when you finally completed this?
Um, it's very interesting because we all think that that God has a plan for us. And as I look back at this and the things that happened to me, I think I may have mentioned this to you. Um, Prime example is I got moved to Virginia, and it was if the path that I was on or I was about to go on, someone basically said, "Nope, you're not going on that one," and picked me up and plucked me onto this other path. I might have been in Woodstock and went through all that and found the same thing that my friend did, died of a heroin overdose. The same thing with the phone call. There was no reason for me to be working home. I had a desk job with Richard Toccato, but it was if I was supposed to be home to get that phone call with my wife. And I never really realized any of that until I started playing around with this. And And by the way, I still have this conversation with AI. Something else will happen and I'll plug it in and it'll pop up something else new. So it's an ongoing thing with me. Um, and it, like I said, it just really did open my eyes that there is um, a path that we're all on, and it is um, pretty much outlined for you.
Wow. Guys, we put Chet's information in here. I don't know about you all. Sometimes it's hard to see all these messages on the chats here. So we put his cell phone, his email. Um, Text him if that story resonated with you. Text him and tell him how it meant to you and what it made an impact onto you and hearing that because
So I
we're
have I have
blessed.
one shame. I have one 2 second shameless plug actually.
Please, after that, you
And
can
and
give us
I'm
whatever.
basically anyone that's listening to this, I basically just want you to think of me as one of those boats that's floating in the river that's rising around you. Just call me if I can help.
There you go, guys. He put his, we have his information on there, his cell phone numbers on there. I'm always a big person of like texting people right after the show. I typically text about either people text me and engage or I'm texting people, usually 5 to 10 people after the show. It's kind of like my 8:45 to 9 o'clock thing that I do. Because I don't know about you all, but that emotion, you're still feeling it after you get done the Zoom of where you are. Like poor D, she's crying and she's trying to get into a listing appointment right now and she's trying to collect herself. Fran had to take herself off of the camera to collect herself. Like it's an emotion that y'all feel when you're going through it. So ride that emotion. You could help somebody else, just like Chet helped somebody today, and his story will resonate. And we did record it, and it will be on the Facebook or the Proxy Vans Facebook page, and the Mindset page, and it'll be on my YouTube channel, so you can subscribe to it, and you'll get the recording. It'll be either later today, that we'll have it. So, Chet. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you sharing that story and being here with us this morning.
I thank you very much. I'm just now going through all the chats. Obviously, I wasn't focused on reading them. Thank you all for the kind words. I really do appreciate it.
All right, all. Well, it's a Friday. It's a Masters weekend for those of you that follow golf. Enjoy it. It's a summer weekend down here in the Carolinas. Going to be in the 90s. So enjoy it. Wear your sunscreen. I want you all to have a safe and happy and healthy weekend. We'll be back at 8:15 with a special guest coming to us at 8:15 Monday morning. I appreciate y'all. God bless you. Till Monday. See
See ya.
ya.